Before we bring up our guest in Brian Attard, who I'm very excited to have join us in just a few minutes. So I mentioned Mike McFadden placed on injured reserve. Tough blow. The Giants went ahead and to address some offensive line concerns, they signed offensive lineman Reed Holsky to the practice squad. He's a 2025 UDFA out of Miami, Ohio of the MAC Conference. He was released from the Texans practice squad last week, and Holsky officially signed with the Ravens during the offseason before heading to the Texans. The other move they made to clear space for him was they terminated the contract of guard McClendon Curtis. Giants also waived former 2023 sixth-round draft pick Trey Hawkins with an injury settlement, waived with no recall. And the Giants made another move. They added a receiver, a return guy, and Xavier Gipson, the former Jet, 24 years old, a 2023 UDFA out of Stephen F. Austin. He was mostly a returner for the Jets, and in fact, he played for them last week. He was waived after he fumbled in the fourth quarter. It was a brutal game. It cost them the win against the Steelers. The Giants are claiming him. We'll see what he does for Big Blue. Obviously, I don't want Wan'Dale Robinson back there with Gunnar Olszewski returning kicks, but Gipson is a guy who can have some pop. Back in 2023, he had 500-plus kick return yards and 319 punt return yards, and he had similar numbers in 2024 as well. So we'll see what he does. All in all, I think it's just brutal the way this Giants season has started. Quick shout-out, Daniel Berry. Happy Thursday. Hello, everyone. What's up, Daniel? That's Daniel Berry Sports Highlights. Appreciate you, Daniel, as always. And yeah, let's get into this week 2 preview a little bit. Dalo came out and said, yeah, Russ is going to be the week 2 starter. But if you're familiar with Russell Wilson, he's not what he used to be. And you're going up against, sure, a Micah Parsons-less, I know that's not even a word, but Cowboys defense. Giants have not started multiple games on the road in a while. It would be terrible if they lose both of them. So I get why they're going with Russ here. They don't want Dart's first start to be on the road in week 2. They definitely have to lay off a little bit. But I think we might see Dart at the end of this game if it gets out of hand, and then have him starting week 3. I don't love saying that, like I mentioned before, but it is a real possibility. Lines in this game, look, Dallas is going to be favored at home, rightfully so. They took the Eagles to the brink, 1-possession game. On 10 days rest from Thursday Night Football, 5.5-point spread. Cowboys have been dominating the all-time series for the past 10 years. They've won 15 out of the last 16 matchups, and they've won the last 8. So the Giants have not beaten Dallas since January 2021 when Andy Dalton started in place of the injured Dak Prescott. Giants have not beaten Dallas on the road in a while. In fact, it was 9 years ago to this date, September 11th, 2016. So, yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see what happens. I'm very anxious to see how this Giants team looks. And if you have any thoughts on the Giants, make sure to drop them below, because we're interested too. We want to know what you guys think of this Big Blue squad, because right now it's not looking too hot. Maybe you're a little more optimistic than I am. I think a lot of Giants fans were optimistic coming into the season. I kind of faded them a little bit last week. I said they'd go 6-11. Now that might even sound like a stretch. It really might. I'm not exactly sure what the path forward is. I'm not in the front office. I am not on the coaching staff. I'm not going to sit here and act like I have the answers for you. But what I can say is that it's only going up from here, because there is a rookie class that is going to grow. Abdul Carter and Jackson Dart headline that class. And this is the second draft in a row that Shane has nailed. I just don't know if it's too little, too late. And I think we will see Jackson Dart by week 5, week 6. I do not think they're going to say, hey, buddy, Let's throw you out there for the home opener against Kansas City in week 3. Have that for your first NFL start. Or the Chargers in week 4. I don't see that happening. I think a more realistic possibility is week 5, maybe the week before the Eagles game. I would prefer week 12, week 13, but I'm not Brian Dable. My job is not on the line here, right? You want to get him in there sooner than later. And let's bring up our guest for the evening now. He is backstage, the CEO of the Sports Box, using his StreamYard tonight. Brian Ricard, how are you doing? I love this setup, by the way. You got some awesome stuff here.
Any better, I'd be you, brother. How are you?
I'm doing excellent. Doing as good as I can. You know, it's been a rough start to the season for us, per usual. It's been rough.
I mean, it's growing pains. You'd be all right.
Yeah. So, folks, if you're new and seeing Brian for the first time, he's a huge Cowboys fan, but don't worry. He's also a Yankees fan. He's also a Rangers fan, and that's his number one. He bleeds New York, New Jersey blue.
I also hate the Cowboys more than most people, so it's kind of like one of those things, you know. So
it's like that love-hate relationship that you like to deal with. So I'm going to throw the toughest question at you first, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Was trading Micah Parsons the correct decision, and how will it affect the Cowboys long-term?
So I think it was the correct decision for a couple of reasons, right? Number one, I don't think the Cowboys were a Micah Parsons away from winning something, right? And if you're going to commit what Green Bay committed financially to Micah Parsons, like, you need to be ready to win now. The Cowboys are not ready to win now. The Cowboys are nowhere close to being ready to win now. And I mean, that's not to say that could a deal have been reached earlier, which we have this criticism of Jerry Jones quite a bit, right? Is when you go back to Dak's contract, you go back to Lamb's contract, he's playing this poker game with himself. And he's terrible at it consistently, by the way, where players ask for X, they don't get X, and then Jerry gives them X plus something later because that's just the way it ends up. Like, he's a terrible, terrible card player. It was the right move to trade him for the very simple reason, Tom, that this team isn't going to win jack shit in the next 4 years. So why are they going to pay a pass rusher when they have all these other issues? Like, you know, it doesn't really matter who your pass rusher is if your quarterback's just not good enough, right? You know, it's not a great correlation, but you'll remember a couple of years ago where the Washington, whatever they were called at the time, drafted Chase Young second overall, as opposed to filling a quarterback need. And it just felt weird at the time. And now Chase Young, I believe, is on the Saints after spending some time in San Francisco and God knows where else. And eventually Washington got a quarterback, right? But like, they just didn't do it in order. So again, if I'm the Cowboys personally, which I'm not, obviously, but I would be doing more selling. I don't think they're going necessarily to do that because their owner is 82 years old and thinks he invented football. But Micah Parsons was not going to win with the Dallas Cowboys. So I was perfectly fine moving on from Parsons and building towards a potential post-Prescott future. And if that's the plan, I'm good. If the plan is to aggressively, you know, trade those picks for other stuff, then maybe not so much. I mean, if it were me, and it's not, but if it was, sure, I would be looking to package those picks. I'd be looking to lose as much as I possibly could, but then package those picks up to get a quarterback that I'm going to use longer term. I don't think that's going to happen, but that would be my approach. I was perfectly fine with the trade because I just didn't think they were ever going to. Once Hendrickson, you know, got his money and everybody else got money, like, it was just one of those things where, like, it's always, can you top this? It's not even about like what players want. It's they need to be the highest this, the highest that. So as everybody else signed TJ Watt, like, it just became like, okay, like, this is just not going to work. Like, you can't have Dak making what Dak is making and Lamb making what Lamb is making and trying to pay an offensive line and guys are going to come up for contracts. He just kind of got priced out. I think he wanted to stay. everything that you saying that you see was that like he went to them at the end and said, "Can we talk about a deal?" And they pretty much told him to F off, like play on your deal or leave. So was that Jerry's ego? Probably. Is it always Jerry's ego? Probably. Welcome to Cowboy football.
Yeah, it's been a long time. I still think we're on the younger end of age wise. I was one when Dallas won their last Super Bowl, if that means anything. So that has to change. And shout out to my dad chiming in saying he did well in Green Bay this week. Who did he chase down? Was it Goff? It was Goff. Goff, statue, meat and potatoes quarterback, not mobile, but he chased him down from sideline to sideline, essentially, on that one play.
The thing about Green Bay is I think the cap will catch up them sooner than later. Like, I think their best chance to win, frankly, is this year, whether they do or not. I think it gets harder after this year. Because now you spent the money.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have the picks. So you got to go.
Agreed. Sticking with the defense here, and Micah Parsons for one more minute.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, you brought in some new defensive starters, right? Dallas, they signed Kenneth Murray Jr., they signed Jack Sanborn, they traded for Kenny Clark in the Parsons deal. But what is their identity following the departure of Parsons? Who is the guy that you look to and say, yeah, he's that guy that you have to game plan for if you're an opposing offense?
So I think they're trying to build a culture for what it's worth. Right now, I think they're basically a very good secondary and Kenny Clark. And now that Duran Bland is hurt, we'll see if that sticks. Or maybe the secondary just looked really good last Thursday because Jalen Hurts can't throw a football. I mean, that's also possible.
Also true.
The problem that I think they're going to run into is the things that Micah did that don't show up on the stat sheet, right? So, he would be the kind of guy to draw attention away from other guys, which would open them up to get to the quarterback or at least rush to the quarterback, right? Lane Johnson was always very good at blocking him, and Lane Johnson's unbelievable. But that sort of a defensive force is able to just disrupt. And maybe he's not the guy that gets to the quarterback or gets to the pressure, but he creates the environment for someone else to be able to do that. The team had 52 sacks a year ago. No, he only had 12 of them, but that did lead the team by over double. The second place guy was current Giant Chauncey Golston, who has 5.5. I think eventually, I like DeMarvion Overshown. He continually gets hurt though, which is an issue. I think he can be an impact player. Donovan Ezekiraku with their second round pick. I think he can become an impact player. Fun fact, he went to high school about 15 minutes from where I am in South Jersey, and I'm personal friends with who his head coach was. And he said, you got a winner right there. So, I mean, obviously he's partial to his guy, but I think that could have some legs as well, as far as, how they get to the pass rush. They say they want to quote unquote manufacture pressure. Right. That was the buzzword after they got rid of Parsons. And that's a nice idea, right? It's nice to say that. I don't know how that actually works in practice, but that's Jerry Jones trying to sell a trade to a fan base. You mentioned Ken Murray, right? They have him, guys like Dante Fowler, who were high picks somewhere else that didn't really pan out. And, it means that they have pedigree and talent. Maybe the right scheme or coach gets more out of them. I guess they're kind of banking on some of that. Siobhan Revell, who was a corner they drafted in the third round, he has potential to be really, really good. He was going to be a first round pick if not for an ACL injury. So he has that pedigree if he can get back to what he was. And I think it was the Cowboys medical staff that did his surgery. So, I do get PTSD of Jalen Smith when I hear that. But it's kind of the same idea. So hopefully that, we'll figure that out. I said a lot to try to answer your question, but I think I think it really is a work in progress, right? I think that they're trying to build something right now. The strength is their secondary. We'll see where that goes. Again, yes, they did need to learn how to stop the run. And yes, Kenny Clark can do that. Kenny Clark's also 29. So it's not as if you're getting someone who's Micah's age to build around.
Sure.
I don't even know if Kenny Clark's there next year. It's one of those things where do you free up cap? It's it feels like they're trying to do something in the moment that I don't think they're capable of doing, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it's fair enough. I think, you have a couple really good players, but it's mostly role players trying to develop into potential stars. And I think Dallas does have some potential stars on their defense, but all in all, it's going to be difficult to pay them, as we saw what happened with Micah Parsons. Generational talent just walked. And, a lot of people are comparing it to the Reggie White deal. And we'll see. We'll see what happens. There's a lot of time. We'll know in a year or two from now, but I don't know.
I have no ill will towards Parsons. I mean, he wanted to stay. At the end of the day, it was clear he wanted to stay. And the only reason that he didn't was because Jerry waited and waited. And again, maybe it was, there's talk of like he didn't have the locker room support that Dak and Lamb had, that the podcast, annoyed people, again, a million different reasons. It just didn't work out. And that's a shame because he was a Cowboy fan growing up in PA of all places. And I feel that being a Cowboy fan in South Jersey, so I get it. But it's just, it didn't work out. And sometimes it just doesn't. Good for him.
What it is. Yeah. Speaking of which, I like the situation Dallas is in. What are your expectations for Schottenheimer? Because to me, as an outsider looking in, this feels like a yes man hire. And don't get me wrong, I think the story is great. Brian got very emotional on Thursday night before his first game as a head coach. And I'll be honest with you, I thought he did okay. I really thought he did okay with what he was given. He struggled when he was the OC with the Jets. There's no secret there, but it's taken him a little bit longer to develop into head coach material. And we'll see if it's more a transitional coaching phase or if he is here to stay. But I kind of want to get your thoughts because it does seem like a very unexciting hire.
Do you remember how negative I was about Mike McCarthy?
Yes.
Yeah. This is underwhelming to Mike McCarthy. What you said is 1,000,000% correct. And that is the problem with the team. I'm not going to sit here and quote CM Punk's pipe bomb that I've done a couple of times, but it's, maybe I will. Maybe this team is better once Jerry Jones is dead, but it's probably going to get taken over by his idiotic son-in-law and his doofus daughter and the rest of his stupid family. So he is a yes man. And that's what Jerry wants. All this talk of, they're going to get Bill Parcells. Not Bill Parcells, Bill Belichick. No. Like, that was just never going to happen because he would come in and do what he wants to do, not what Jerry wants to do. This is Jerry's world. That's not a phrase that's inaccurate. Schottenheimer has never been a head coach anywhere else in the league. He was their offensive coordinator for a couple of years. So it felt like you thought it could be like 10 people and then it wasn't. And he was around like, hey, would you like it? You want the job? You've been here the longest. Like, it's just, everything they do is wrong. Like I have no expectations. It was such an underwhelming hire that I miss Mike McCarthy and I hate Mike McCarthy. So it's just like, it doesn't matter.
I'm going to have to add a little bit of fuel to the fire here, Brian. So apologies about that. But NFL.com, when previewing Giants Cowboys earlier this week, listed Dak Prescott as the hotter quarterback going into this game. What exactly is hot about Dak Prescott and his 21 of 34 for 188 yards while making $60 million a year?
So hotter in this game? Is that the approach? Because if that's Russell Wilson's a dead body. So, by definition, if Dak's alive, the body's warmer. I guess we'll look at it from that standpoint. Yeah, I think that's more that I feel is more that is a discussion point around Russell Wilson being 17 of 37 for $168 than it is about Dak Prescott. Yeah. He didn't play poorly against the Eagles. I just think he is what he is. Yeah. They'll throw the ball because they're going to have to. Maybe it's a better fantasy start, but
oh yeah.
I look at what you say there as him being the hotter quarterback and say that that's more about Russell Wilson than it is about Dak Prescott.
Yeah. No, 100%. And do you think stuff went wrong for him in week one? Like, to be honest with you, Philly's defense was quite underwhelming in that game, and Dak just seemed like he couldn't capitalize on it enough. Now, he was hurt by that CeeDee Lamb drop. That was massive, and that was not on Dak at all.
Yeah.
But it just seems like Dak, and I don't know if it's him or if it's just Dallas in general, just missed opportunity after missed opportunity. And that was the theme of Thursday night's game. I thought at times Dallas played the better game.
Sure. But
they couldn't pull it out.
Some of that could be coaching. And that what you just said there, it's an evergreen statement. It happens all the time. This is not something that is new. Yeah, I mean, I think the drops hurt a stat line for sure. I mean, he didn't play a poor game. It's just, he is what he is. And you mentioned, Lamb's drops, and I think, look, that people forget that we're still basically in the preseason. Like the way they do it now, guys don't really play. They barely make them practice because everything that the union has negotiated. So, I mean, September is essentially the new real preseason for what it's worth. So, Lamb dropping balls. Yeah. Like, is it a concern? Sure. Is he going to fix it? Yes. He's too good not to. I do think that speaks to the risk you take in paying big money to wide receivers. Because they can be up and down. I'm not going to sit here and say they're like, bullpens in baseball, but, guys have down years, sometimes they get the yips, if you will. It's early in the season. If Lamb is not a star, pardon the pun, like this team wins 2 games. So like, I just don't think that's, like the offense runs through him. So if he's not going, and he still had 7 catches, 110 yards. Like, it wasn't like he had this terrible game either. But you remember the drops because that's potentially the difference in the game. They played well enough to win that game. And, the heart in me would always love to beat the Eagles because why not? The head in me says, I'm looking for a down year. So great. We'll see where my end was. But no. The Eagles were very susceptible to a loss there. The Cowboys played well defensively, enough at least through the air. Just didn't happen.
Yeah. Speaking of through the air, George Pickens is a new Cowboy. I traded him in our fantasy league because I knew he was not going to be a guy that I wanted to keep long term. How does he fit in to this Cowboys offense?
So I think what he does for the 1 year he's going to be here, because I don't think he's going to be here after the season, just my gut. He should conceivably open things up for Lamb. And I say that because, they really haven't had like a really functional number 2 receiver since Amari Cooper was here in 2021. They've relied heavily on Lamb throughout his career. And for the most part, he's answered the bell. You may remember that I was a big proponent the last couple of years of Jake Ferguson. Some of that was I liked Jake Ferguson as a player. I thought he could be very good. But the other part of it was, well, who's he up against? Like who's second in getting these passing opportunities after Lamb? There really wasn't anybody that you were looking at and say, oh, well, the laundry list of crap they've had at 2 receiver. So, Pickens should draw a decent amount of coverage. They're not going to necessarily be able to double Lamb because Pickens will burn them. I think it's an extremely short-term move. I think it's a Band-Aid, and then we'll see where they go. I was actually semi-surprised that they didn't go look for a receiver in the draft. I just felt that was the direction they were going to go. They didn't, which is fine. But he should just relieve some of the ability of a defensive coordinator. Just, go double Lamb. Because if you take him out of the equation, they got nothing. So that's where I think Pickens can help.
I honestly thought Matthew Golden had Dallas Cowboys written all over him. But they didn't go that direction. They're thinking, well, we just invested in our $60 million quarterback. And I know you hate to hear this, Brian, so I'll make this quick.
No, yeah.
It takes a lot of time to decide. You got to protect him. And that's why they took Tyler Booker in that first round.
Oh, absolutely. But like they've continually, again, so I'm a trenches guy. I always will be, right? Like if you put a gun to my head, I would have rather, if I was Cincinnati, taken Penei Sewell over Jamar Chase. And that's like heresy to people that play fantasy football. But like you look at the Chargers now, right? Yeah, look, Malik Neighbors is a great player. Look at Joe Alt and tell me that that's not an unbelievable fit, even despite Slater being hurt, right? They had a great game against the Chiefs. So again, I'm a trenches guy. I am not surprised they keep adding to their offensive line. I get it, and that's great. I was mildly surprised that it didn't go for a receiver in like, round 2 or round 3. It didn't happen that way. That's okay. That's kind of been their MO. But but again, remember when they traded for Amari Cooper, whenever they traded for Amari Cooper, it's been a while.
Years.
Yeah, and I said at the time, like, they're going to force feed him the ball. Why? Twofold. One, Jerry has to be right about his moves. And 2, they got to make Dak look good, right? So that's part of the rationale for Pickens too, right? Like you need to make your investment in your quarterback look like it's panning out, or else you look like the idiot because the guy's going to sign whatever you put in front of him. So that's kind of where the offense is. Again, I think Pickens is he's a good receiver, but he's also the stereotypical diva receiver. And I don't know that that's a culture fit for what they claim they're trying to build. Now, they can say a lot of things. They say whatever they want to make you convinced that this is what the right move was.
Right.
I don't think he's there next year. I think they're probably drafting someone. We'll see. But in the short term, he should give Lamb some breathing room.
And usually when the Steelers get rid of a receiver, it's for good reason. We've seen that in the past. Antonio Brown, Mike Wallace, Juju Smith-Schuster. I mean, it's been a revolving door. And, Tomlin usually knows what he's doing when it comes to that. Yeah. So we'll see if Pickens is successful. Hope for your case that he is, or maybe not so much because Dallas needs to rebuild and get that draft capital.
I don't know. They just
one position you won't have to worry about in the draft for like the next 15 years is the kicker position. And in my opinion, you have the best one in the NFL. If the Giants for some reason hang around in this game and it comes down to a kick, I think this guy's got it. Former soccer player at Notre Dame, such an excellent kicker, especially in high pressure situations. What makes him so clutch?
Well, clearly it was his college soccer experience, right?
Yeah.
You never went to school, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Notre Dame grad. That's for you, buddy.
Yes, sir. Sorry, you cut out for a second, and then I heard Notre Dame grad.
Yeah, so that's his college experience. I did that for you. He's such a weapon, and he is like ice in his veins, like nothing bothers him. He's always so calm. It's honestly unfortunate for him that he's on a team that can't fully utilize his abilities. If I were him, I might be the first kicker to demand a trade. Send me to Kansas City. Send me to the Chargers. Their kickers are good too. But I'm just saying, like, that's a weapon, and people like underestimate how much of a weapon a kicker can be because it's a kicker. I think Peyton Manning's our idiot kicker. Like that kind of changed perception a lot. He's so good. Like you just don't worry about it. He's very, very talented.
And you saw the first ever 70-yard field goal made in the preseason by Cam Little of the Jaguars. That completely changes the game. And these soccer players that come in and just start kicking, it's insane. Like Aubrey changes the landscape, in my opinion, of fantasy football kickers. That is not a guy you wait for in the last round or the second to last round. I mean, you got to take him with like 5 rounds left if you want him. At worst, I feel like. In some leagues, depending on how your league is, what the scoring is, whatever it is, he is a weapon. He's not just a kicker.
I agree.
He is insanely talented, and good for him. I think he plays a big role on Sunday. Again, if the Giants' defense bends but doesn't break, you have Brandon Aubrey, and that should win you some games this year. No doubt. But, Brian, let's get into some keys of the game. Mm-hmm. Now, for the Giants, right? I know we've talked a lot about Dallas over the last several minutes, and we'll make sure we steal a player off each other's team in a little bit too. I guess what if anything worries you about the Giants at all heading into this game, because you haven't lost to them in 5 years, what is it specifically? Obviously, Malik Neighbors' presence is there. Dexter Lawrence is there. What, as a Cowboys fan, are you thinking, yeah, Dallas needs to worry about this in order to win?
I think that I thought coming into the year that the Giants defense would be much improved. Again, adding Abdul was a great move for them. The draft fell perfectly for them to do that. I mean, that's going to be a concern, right? Is the ability to protect your quarterback from that standpoint. My second concern is, is what Javonte Williams did more fool's gold? Like, was that just because Jalen Carter just was out of the game and that's why he was able to run the way that he did? Now, I've always thought he was a talented runner in Denver, just injury prone. So I was happy that they got him, even though I'm not a big running back guy. Like, I'm good with that kind of scrap heap. Pay that guy. That's fine. Offensively for the Giants, I just don't know what to really expect, right? Like, they really struggled last week, right? So was that early preseason? Was that Russ's first game? Again, it's hard to attribute something. I would be very curious to see if the Giants try to run the ball on the Cowboys, right? When Kenny Clark's on the field, they're good. They were good at blocking the run, right? When he wasn't, they got run on, right? I know Tracy didn't really do overly well. He got 25 yards last week. He might be a key to the game. I think that the Giants are going to need to establish the run to affect that Cowboys defense in a way that, again, look, Neighbors is a stud. He'll get his, but he can get more of his if they have to at least account for a running game. So a lot of that's going to be, up to what the line can do. I think, I'd give the ball to Scatterbo a little bit more just to see what you got with him too. If Russ is the quarter, Russ was the leading rusher last week. I mean, that's not a recipe for success for the Giants.
To pivot quick, did you see Scatterbo truck those two defenders on that screen pass?
No, I heard about it though.
Oh my God. I mean, this guy could play.
Yeah.
If you didn't know that already after watching last year's college football play. I mean, that's a guy you root for, right? Little school, Sacramento State, transfers to Arizona State, short guy, but bulky. That's a guy you root for. He's a player's coach. I mean, he's a coach's player.
Little Doug Wilson for him from the old Bucks running back, the muscle hamster, right? Little kind of short, stocky, like
Mm-hmm. I see the comparison. I could see that. I mean, I kind of brought it up last week, and somebody in the comment section got upset about this. I was like, eventually, I think Scatterbo overtakes Tracy because Tracy is more of a receiving back anyway. That's what he was at Purdue. I like Tracy. He should be the number one for most of the year, but eventually it's going to be a 50-50 timeshare. And
Doug Martin, I'm sorry, I took me a second.
For the Bucks, yes.
Yeah, Doug Martin. I'm sorry, I knew that was right when I said it. Doug Martin was the runner that I thought, like, again, kind of took over for LeGarrette Blount at the time. He that short, stocky,
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I do think the Giants need to run, especially with what you guys did last week, like holding Saquon to under 3.5 yards per carry. I thought was awesome. I mean, the only time Dallas gave up any yards was when Hurts saw nobody open, knew he couldn't throw an accurate ball in a tight window, decides to take off and run.
But right? You know what it is, and this is what drives me nuts, right? Is people will say that guy's an elite quarterback, and I'm like, I don't know what the hell you're watching. But secondly, those runs happen because their offensive line is unbelievable, right? Mm-hmm. Like, all rushers are a function of their offensive line. So, it's just like, give credit where it's due. I don't really understand it.
No, absolutely. Those five up front are outstanding. If you're the Giants, you have to win in the trenches in this game. Andrew Thomas, limited in practice today. He did not play in week 1, and every time Andrew Thomas does not play, the entire offense falls apart. I have never seen one player mean so much to an offense. Like, when he plays, the offensive line looks good. When he does not play, it looks like worse than the NFL, and it's a damn shame. Mm-hmm. It really is a shame because his replacement gave up 6 pressures last week, and this is a guy, Brian, Joe Shane went out for a swing tackle. $6 million a year for a swing tackle, a backup swing tackle. And he performs like this. I don't know what it is personally that's wrong with the Giants offensive line, but I mean, you know better than most. It's been a problem for us since 46.
Uh-huh.
It's insane, actually. It's actually insane because, you know, you target Malik Neighbors 12 times and he only gets 5 catches. Well, why is that? Every throw to him is rushed. Like, there's no time. There's disconnects between him and the quarterback. And,
well,
I don't know. It's frustrating.
Look at the bright side. It won't be Micah Parsons causing pressure.
Yeah, I know. But you still got Sam Williams has developed nicely. Marshawn Nealand, the rookie, or second year, I forget. He's solid. Odigizua is still there, right? He's got some game. And defensively or offensively for Dallas, I think it's going to be a challenge to pressure Dak Prescott because yes, we have an elite pass rush, but they only played 8 snaps together, those 4 guys last week, and Carter, Thibodeau, Lawrence, and Burns. And the Dallas offense was 7 of 11 on third down against Philly last week. Why do you think that was? Do you think just, the offensive line was good, or just Philly lacking the blitz? Was Vic Fangio's defense just not?
I think again, the Eagles defense didn't really play like, you know, a great game. But I think honestly what helped them is Jalen Carter wasn't there. I mean, you have to account for that, right? That's why, like, for me in this game, I really want to see if they can get another good rushing game from Javonte Williams. I don't need to see Miles Sanders ever again. Like, that just didn't work. You drafted Jaden Blue. Like, why don't you see what you got in him? But, you know, Washington ran all over the Giants a week ago, right? So this is going to be a key where we say, you know, can you, and they haven't been able to for years, can you, as a Cowboys offense, have a legitimate rushing attack, right? Part of the reason that Dak puts up these kind of gaudy numbers at times is because, like, they had this, like, allergy to running the ball, right? So your offense lows to your quarterback, he just throws a lot more. It's not because it's just opportunity. You gave your 2 receivers. Also, and that's an interesting, when you have those 2 receivers, you have them on both sides of the field, that should help your running game, right? Because you do have to at least account for those guys. Pickens helps, right? Not just Lamb, but also I want to see if Javonte Williams can do it again. And again, you know, Krosky Merritt ran nicely in his first game last week. Jaden Daniels was their second rusher. I mean, Dak's not going to do that. So I want to see if their rushing success was no Jalen Carter. I got to know where that goes.
No, absolutely. I think that's a good point. Players to watch, and then we'll swipe one at the end of this segment. If Brian, to the Giants fans watching right now, you know, may not know a whole lot about the Dallas team this year. You know, outside of Dak, Lamb, Ferguson, there's a lot of new faces. Who poses a threat? I know you've talked a little bit about Pickens and Javonte Williams, but who on either side of the ball poses a threat to potentially go off in this game?
Yeah, I mean, look, if they can commit to running the ball, Williams should have a good game. Jaden Blue was a draft pick that they had in the draft that he was like the hot name, like who can win the Cowboys job, because it was kind of like a committee, and who he had, you know, the rookie pedigree. You know, we'll see where that goes. You know, Kevontae Turpin, who's been primarily their kick returner, they want to use him more in the passing game, and he is electric in the kick return game. He showed a couple flashes in the passing game. That's another weapon that can be very, very interesting if you use him the right way. I don't know that he's out there for 3 receiver sets all the time, but I think it's like, you know, that kind of speed can kill, especially if you're having to account for Lamb and Pickens. So, you know, he's going to be a threat in the return game, but he can also be somebody who puts something up in the passing game as well.
I definitely agree with that. I also like Trayvon Diggs for Dallas because I don't know if it was just the fact that they contained Barkley well on Thursday Night Football, but A.J. Brown only had 1 catch last week, and it was towards the end of the game too. I don't know. I just thought, I know Duron Bland is dealing with his stuff, but
There's more than meets the eye with that. Number one, his quarterback stinks, but number two, he's nursing a hamstring injury, and I think that they're not letting on how bad it is. Who knows?
Right.
But I think that
people were warned, don't draft him in the second round of your fantasy
Oh,
draft, and people still did it.
Listen, Devontae Smith fell like I think round 5-6 in most drafts, and I think that that's right. And it's not even a shot at Devontae Smith. It's not. It's just a situation.
No. I think for the Giants in this game, and then you can tell me if you agree, I think Wan'Dale Robinson has a chance to have a good game because with Deron Bland potentially being sidelined for a couple of weeks with the right foot, right? Wan'Dale's a guy, 6 catches, 55 yards last week. Russ needs to get the ball out quick. And behind this offensive line, your best shot, get the quick passes out to Theo Johnson, Wan'Dale, Daniel Bellinger, whoever it is, just try to make something happen, please. And don't have a repeat of last week where we're trying to force the ball down the field to Malik Neighbors. Darius Slayton, we paid $12 million a year to come back, and he had 1 target in the game, no catches. Jalen Hyatt, healthy, active, didn't play a single snap.
Yeah.
So I think Wan'Dale's going to be critical.
So I think that what you're saying is right in that now there is, as good as the secondary can be, it's wounded, right? So it's Kyer Elam's probably starting across from Trayvon Diggs. Like that is a weakness that you can exploit. And the more that they exploit that weakness, like if it were me, and it's not obviously, if I go to Wan'Dale early in the game and start to affect the way Dallas defends, that should open up Neighbors, right? Like if they can't cover Robinson because they just don't have the horses, then you're going to have to adjust the way you cover, and you're going to draw coverage away from Neighbors, which should open up Neighbors, right? Now that's going to then be up to Wilson to make the play. We can debate whether he still can or not, but that should be part of what their game plan is, would be what I would say.
Yeah, well said. Who else on the Giants are you thinking before we move on here to watch on either side of the ball?
Yeah, so I came on slightly late. Are they having any kind of packages for Dart? Like, are they trying to like at all? Like, because that was the story was. Oh, there are going to be some packages for Jackson Dart. Like, what is that looking like?
I think somebody heard Dable say that, like there's packages in there for him, and you kind of just took it and ran with it. I don't think we're going to see him on Sunday, if that answers the question. I don't know personally. I mean, I don't think Russ is going to play well again. So we might be looking at him in week 3, which is terrible because I don't want to. As much as I want to see him, I don't want to see him in week 3 against Kansas City. I really don't. And ultimately, you're better off waiting a little bit. But if you're Dable and Russ looks against Dallas the way he did against Washington, you almost have to do it.
So I would tell you that it's probably easier to bring Dart into this game than it is from to start the home opener. Right. Like,
right.
In a way, if the game's semi out of hand, I'm not saying it's going to be, right, but let's just say that it is in the mid third, get him. So, but that's the thing, man. Like I keep saying this, teams are so reticent to hit that reset button at quarterback because it changes everything. Right. And maybe that's me having flashbacks of Romo coming in for Bledsoe and then he never gave it up again. Great. Like if Dart comes in and plays well, like you kind of you can't go back to Russell Wilson, right? Because you've got 51 other guys that, are putting their ass out there. Just like, you got to put your best foot forward. So I think it's between a rock and a hard place when at the same time, he might be coaching for his job. Like, it's like you're this uneasiness. Like once you make that decision is made. Like, I think that whenever they start Jackson Dart, that's it.
Right.
Like you can't look back. Like you can't go home again. Like that's it. So I agree with you that it's a very difficult decision to make. It's more difficult for him to do it in the home opener, right? So maybe it takes to week 4, week 5. I think I came on as you were saying that.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe it was just rust for Russ. I don't know, but like they got to figure that out.
I look at what happened with Drake May last year, and that's what I worry about. Drake May was good, but his development was rushed. And,
Sure.
you saw the interceptions. You saw the turnovers. Yeah, you saw some good plays, too. You saw some nice passes and runs from him, some good touchdown plays. But ultimately, a lot of people came away being like, yeah, it was a so-so year. Now his coach is fired because he might have waited too long, and he was a terrible head coach anyway. Should have never been hired, in my opinion. They didn't even have an interview process, and they just named him last year.
Mm-hmm.
But now you have Vrabel in there, a guy who I think can coach that team and relate to the players. Josh McDaniels is back, not to get on New England here, but with the Giants, I don't know if Daboll's going to keep his job because the offensive coordinator stinks in Kapka. He's terrible. And then Shane Bowen's not good either on the defensive side. You have two bad coordinators, a terrible offensive line. So whenever Dart does get the call and goes in there, it might not be pretty right away.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, this is what happened with Daniel Jones. And the difference between Dart and Jones showed us good plays, but he never officially passed the eye test. I think Dart already passed the eye test. I mean, I'm sure you saw him a little bit, some highlights in the preseason. This guy throws accurate balls when he's getting hit. He's unfazed. He's a tough kid, man. I mean, I've never seen what I've seen in him in this short amount of time than I did with Daniel Jones in 6 years. I just never saw what I see in Dart now than I did with Jones throughout his 6 years. So that's where I'm at with that.
No, it's a tough decision because once you make it, you just can't take it back, and that's where I think that again, if Daboll's coaching for his job, you might get a little trigger happy.
Yeah, gotta push the button.
Yeah.
So Brian, with a few minutes to go, who are you stealing from the Giants? Who's a player on the Giants that Dallas could really use? I know we might have just talked about it in the last segment.
Listen,
that's who it is.
Jackson Dart would solve a lot of problems for me personally. So that's, I want them to hit that reset button. I want them to start slamming that reset button, but they just don't want to do it because it's Dak Prescott. No, I mean, listen, I again, now I have my own controversial views on things, and that's fine. I don't care if you people like them or not. I'm a big guy believer that if you're a quarterback and you don't go in like top 15, top 20, maybe this league falls over itself to overdraft quarterbacks, and they may just not think you have it. Doesn't mean you can't be good. It just means it's kind of more difficult for you to really necessarily become an elite guy. Dart can be good, right? I mean, for them to have gotten him with Carter, I thought was a very, very good draft. I think the concern would be, I am not predicting this, so don't take it the wrong way, but if they end up really, really high in the draft, are they committed to Dart enough that they wouldn't go for the high, big name and then figure out Dart later? And that there's pros and cons to that, right? You have to weigh that out. If you remember, it's history now, but they were hot and heavy after Justin Herbert, but they couldn't do it because they had just taken Daniel Jones the year before. Who knows, right? I think that would be, I personally would think if they liked Dart enough, they help the team more by using that pick on somebody else or trading it down and really helping your team. But that is one of those second guess situations. Man, this quarterback was right in front of you, didn't take him. And then what? I mean, the Giants are in a weird spot where they have a lot of very, very, very difficult decisions with a lot of future reverberations.
Yeah,
it's bigger than just this year.
It is. Ultimately, I mean, I think they gave up draft capital to trade up for Dart. So, I mean, I think he's going to be the week one starter next year, regardless of, what happens in the draft. It also depends on if Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll come back, right? John Maris said he wants to see improvement. They have to get improvement. And I think it starts with the trenches for them. And that's why, Brian, if I'm stealing a player from your team, I am stealing Tyler Guyton because I think he's a good, young, raw tackle prospect who can enhance his skills on their Carm Bracella, who's not a bad offensive line coach for us. We saw a lot of improvement last year, but Evan Neal was a bust. He's a backup guard. He's healthy scratch on game day as of last week, which was terrible for a guy entering his contract year. And I just think in order for us to have a chance this week, we need good line play. And our biggest hole is at left tackle. So I am taking Tyler Guyton if I had the choice. So that's what I'm going to roll with.
You don't want Mozzie Smith? All right. It's fine.
He'd be up there a little bit. But, yeah, no. I think we're okay there. Next to Dexter Lawrence, though, you could argue that is another hole on the defense as well.
Yeah.
All right, let's get into our game predictions. Brian, I mentioned this before you came on. Dallas has won the last 8 matchups and the last 15 out of 16 matchups against the Giants. In fact, Dak Prescott has only lost twice to the Giants, and both of those losses were 9 years ago in 2016.
It's kind of hard to pick against them in this game. You know, they played well enough to win last week, right? They did. I think I read a stat that over the last, I forget how many number of years, but if you just, and again, it's kind of weird because they're both 0-1, but if you just bet the 0-1 team in week 2, like they're 54-40 against the spread, something like that. I think it's just hard to pick against them, right? Like the Giants just gave you nothing last week. And I mean, you tell me if I'm wrong. Like they didn't really give you anything to like be like, oh, okay, well, this is positive. Like we can build from this, right? Whereas the Cowboys, frankly, to my chagrin, they kind of did, right? Like they if Lamb doesn't drop some balls, they beat the Eagles in Philadelphia. They ran the ball, which they never do. They defended the pass well, which they never do. Yeah, they got run on. That'll happen. But Kenny Clark played well. So I believe they're a 4.5 point favorite here. I mean, this kind of has like 27-21 written over it, you know, maybe unless the Giants get nothing going offensively, which I think at that point you might see panic button. You might get Jackson Dart in week 3. I think they need to like get a couple touchdowns here, which again, I mean, week 1, just don't overreact. It feels to me like a 27-20, 27-21, like high 20 versus low 20 is kind of where it pans
out. Yeah, look, I mean, I think the Giants will score at least 1 touchdown this week. God, I hope they do. That would be nice. I don't think it's too much to ask for a touchdown, but I'm going to go with Dallas here. I'm going to go 24-14. The way I look at this, Brian, is I just think Dallas will have the time of possession advantage. I think Dak will look good against the Giants because he always looks good against the Giants. That's part of the reason why his stats look so great over the years. He beat up on teams like the Giants and the Redskins.
Yeah. There was one year where like he had a bunch of touchdowns, and if you look back, it was all the Giants in Washington. Like it was like 4 touchdown games every one of those, and then like it just pads the stats. That's what he does.
I think Neighbors gets in the end zone, and I think either Tracy or Scadaboo gets in as well for us. I think CeeDee Lamb has a good game, 80-90 yards, a touchdown. Ferguson has a good game. He had 5 catches last week. Giants gave up a touchdown to Zach Ertz last week. So all in all, I think Ferguson has a good game too. Yeah, that's what I think. Giants dropped to 0-2. Dallas improves to 1-1.
What I would tell you is I think that Giants fans would be fine if they lose this game but don't look terrible. Like again, I this year to me is, and I think you said it, which is true. Mm-hmm. It's all about progress for the Giants, right? Give me a reason to give a shit about next year. Give me a reason to not fire everyone before next year. Like I think that's, you know, you can finish 4th. It doesn't matter. Look better in that process. Win 7 games. Like that's. Now, again, that goes against my personal view of it. I'd rather them lose. If I were them, I'd rather win 2 and go do something with a draft pick. But like from the standpoint of these guys want to keep their jobs, like you have to show that we are on somewhat of an upswing to validate existence.
To validate them coming back 100%. Yeah. It has to happen that way. But yeah, I mean, it's been a rough start for the Giants, and you know, it's been a tough week overall. And, regardless of what happens in this game Sunday, Brian, I think it's secondary, to what's been going on. And, 24th anniversary of 9/11. I just want to encourage everybody, and I think you agree with this, to love one another. I just wanted to use this platform tonight to, spread some positivity to everybody watching, take our minds off the world's current events, especially, our nation's most recent events, today being 9/11, 24 years ago. And I think, Brian, you and I both do this for similar reasons. Take our mind off things going on in the real world, have fun, spread some sports knowledge to people, learn things ourselves every day. Life is bigger than politics. At the end of the day, we're all human beings created in the image of God. And I personally think that regardless of our differences, we have to find our way back to love. Hate and violence are honestly they're tearing us apart lately. And I think the struggles with mental health and are just causing too much pain and division in the world and in this country specifically. So just today, guys, on the 24th anniversary of 9/11 and moving forward to, I think it's a reminder to everybody to honor those we've lost, to no hate anymore, please. We really don't need it. Choose a different path if you do. Not everyone thinks the same way 100% of the time. Even if you agree with somebody, it's important to love them, and you don't have to like them. But I just encourage everybody: love your family, your friends, your neighbors. Perform an act of kindness tonight, guys. Whether it's call somebody you haven't called in a while, send a text to somebody saying, "Hey, how's it going? Hope you're enjoying this, that." Just read a book to your kid. Do something. Most importantly, just love one another, guys. I think that's a message that needs to be spread in the football world, in the real world, in work environment. And Brian, I know you and I both do this for similar reasons. So I do think it's important to, spread that positivity and spread love around the world. And even if you don't agree with everybody on the same thing, we have more things in common than we think we do at the end of the day. And we're all human beings.
I think if there's one thing I would say, and again, I'm not taking anybody's side. I really don't care. But
Yeah,
just think about how united everybody was 24 years ago tomorrow. Right. That's September 12th, where none of it mattered. Right. Like, yeah, we're never going to agree on everything. That's why America's as great as it is. If you really want to break it down. Right. But we were all on the same team. And when that day was when everybody was proud to be an American, no matter what your background was, no matter who you were, no matter who you supported, it didn't matter. So that to me I don't know if we're too far gone to get back to that, but that's that feeling. And I was a senior in high school at the time, right? So it wasn't like I'm, this worldly person at the moment, but think about just, what that day was like. I think we should all strive to get back there.
Well said, Brian, as always. And yeah, just love one another, guys. That's it. Over hate at the end of the day. Always choose love. Brian, thank you so much for hopping on tonight. This has been a blast. Where can people find you and your work over at the Sports Box?
So at Sports Box Sports, we have a lot of shows throughout the week. We have Game Winning Drive on Wednesday nights, our flagship football show. I'm generally on the Sunday morning NFL pregame. I won't be this week, but I do obviously will be doing that. I also am the sole proprietor of Blue Truth, which is one of the best New York Rangers podcasts you're going to see. It's my personal favorite, but it should be because I'm on it. We just had our kind of season return this past week. Hockey's coming back, thank God. In fact, I just like let the world know I'm really like on a Cowboys like strike. Like the only reason I'm wearing this hat is because I love Tom. Like I just wanted there to be like a Cowboys fan on the Giants show, and I wanted to play the part. Right, I didn't wear a T-shirt. I just wear the hat for Tom because it's Tom. Right. But I don't like them currently. Like I just want the quarterback to go away, and I don't think I'm asking that much, but apparently I am.
If you're listening, Jerry, throw them away.
Jerry's not listening. Jerry's on.
That's all Dallas needs. So make sure to go check out Brian. They do an awesome football show on Sunday mornings over at the Sports Box. I've been on it a couple of times before. It's personally a lot of fun. I don't want to keep you guys any longer from Thursday Night Football. I'll have our social media scrolling across the ticker below. As always, Big Blue Avenue on Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. Brian, thanks again for joining me tonight, folks. Have a good night. Let's go Big Blue, and appreciate you all, and I'll see you all next week.